Hi, I'm Robert Borton, CEO of Classical Conversations, the world's largest classical Christian homeschooling community. I'm launching a new podcast, Refining Rhetoric. If you like CrossPolitic or just listen to hear what crazy stuff they're saying today, you will enjoy Refining Rhetoric. You can find us on your favorite podcast platform. I practice the 15 tools of learning by interviewing great guests, looking at current events, and talking about cryptocurrency.
This is the wrong music.
Now what I chose this. I chose it's the Boniface option. It's Christian nationalism.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Knox.
Jesus is Lord over all.
Come back.
Come on
Knox.
now.
Come back. You see what he's doing to
Yes. I should have had a whole stream of
me? No.
lines. I should drop lines. I gotta drop bombs. I can drop them bombs. You know what I'm saying? You don't know. Hey y'all, welcome to CrossPolitic. Knox isn't here, so you had to deal with that. Pastor Toby.
I'm not dealing.
Chalks is still not here, and Chalks. Knox.
Chalks.
That's my new nickname for Knox.
Chalks.
Yeah, and we got Pastor Andrew Isker, author of the Boniface option. Thank you for actually coming to the studio from Minnesota, from Waseca.
Wasika.
Yeah,
Wasika.
Thank you, Toby.
Yeah.
Wasika.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's
man.
an honor to be here in your presence. This is great.
And for those who don't know, I dropped my friendship with Andrew. It was 8 years ago now, because I actually asked Andrew. He's one of my first buddies. I called, say, hey, I want to start a podcast on this. And
Wait.
And he was living in Minnesota at the time.
Missouri, yeah.
It was in Missouri. They're the same thing to me.
Yeah.
Missouri and Minnesota.
Anything that's not Texas or Idaho.
Not Texas.
Not Texas.
So you're saying that you asked Andrew to be part of your podcast before you asked me?
Well, because me and him actually were at Great Fires Hall at the same time.
I was at Great Fires Hall.
And so, but you had left and then come back, and so like our friendship just wasn't the same after that.
You were
Toby.
teaching. You were
like way better than me.
I don't know how I feel about this. I didn't know this. I didn't, you waited till just now just
on the air.
Drop this bomb on me like I feel
You got to
like
process some things now.
I do. I don't know if I can handle this.
But back then, me and Andrew, we talked for a couple times about it, and I think we just kind of realized like we don't know technology and we don't know how this is going to work. Yeah. And this is, you know.
So then you asked me.
Yeah. Then I was like, hey, Toby's local.
Who knows nothing about He's a sucker. Hey, I want to let y'all know about Idaho Family Policy Center. IFPC is currently the only explicitly Christian policy organization in Idaho politics.
Yeah. Needed.
Toby Sumter and Israel Waitman serve on the board. Both those guys are really great.
Yeah.
Although
who wrote this ad?
Gabe didn't ask one of those guys first to be on CrossPolitic.
No, but Blaine Cosnati asked me first, and I said you should get Toby on your board.
Man, you just totally.
That's also a true story.
It's also a true story that you just completely screwed up his last name, but that's fine. The president is Blaine Cosnati, member of our sister CREC Church King's Congregation down in Meridian. Blaine and IFPC have been leading the efforts to defund Planned Parenthood in Idaho, end abortion in Idaho, protect children from transgender nastiness in Idaho. Basically, Blaine is a very strategic voice in Idaho politics and represents many of our biblical and constitutional concerns in Boise. IFPC really is a pretty brand new ministry, and as such is still in significant need of donations to help fund it.
Yeah.
We all have many commitments to other good ministries, but if you are particularly concerned about Idaho politics, and why wouldn't you be, this is one way you can.
So goes Idaho, so goes America.
That's right. Very direct impact on the world. I mean, it's Idaho,
international,
America, and the world.
No, 100%.
So go to idahofamily.org, idahofamily.org, and learn more about how you can make a donation and support Idaho Family Policy Center. As Gabe already mentioned, Andrew Isker is pastor of 4th Street Evangelical Church in Wasika,
Is
Minnesota.
it on 4th Street?
It is.
Okay, there you go.
605 4th Street, yeah.
I'm just letting the audience know how I can make these connections.
Wow. Andrew, obviously it was a good decision not to do a podcast with Gabe. Andrew's a graduate of Minnesota State University, Mankato, and Greyfriars Hall Ministerial Training School in Moscow, Idaho. In fact, I guess you were one of my students.
I was.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you took it was my preaching class. You took homiletics.
Yeah, it's why I'm so good now.
Yeah,
that's
right. All right.
I've noticed.
Gabe never took my preaching class.
No. Because you were there a year after me. I was there because you weren't there yet. And when Andrew came, you came. So
stop pointing fingers,
I'm
man.
You're feeling very threatened right now.
Right? You didn't even ask me first. He served churches in Missouri, West Virginia, and now in Minnesota. He's actually preaching at his home church.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. You were just telling us about it before we began. And so that's
in
fantastic.
Waseca.
Yeah. And he's also the author of Christian Nationalism, joint authored with Andrew Torba, and now your latest book, The Boniface Option. So thanks.
Yeah, there it is.
Thanks
for coming on, man.
Thanks for coming
really
on.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
There's a reason why Knox is not here. He did not want to. I'm kidding.
I'm so disappointed.
I am too, honestly. But anyways, so the first question I want to ask you is basically, Andrew, why are you so mean? I mean,
true.
You're clearly a very angry young man.
I am so angry.
And there's like steam coming out of your ears right this minute. I mean, you came in the room throwing things,
cussing at me,
cursing.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at you. I mean, obviously you're mad about something. Why are you
something? It doesn't have to be anything. It's just something.
I mean,
I'm mad.
I am so mad at something right now.
Why are you so mad?
Well, I'm not.
That's not a loaded question at all.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Where do I go with that?
When are you going to stop beating your wife?
Exactly. That's the question.
Let's get into more.
It's like, but you're right though. Like you're referring to Rod Dreher's review of the book, which was great. I'm so glad he did it.
Yeah.
Did
it help?
It did.
Way to go. Way to go, Rod. Thank you.
It did.
Rod doesn't text me anymore.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, he did for a little bit, and then after his divorce, he was done.
It's sad.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it, is the way I write. I mean, I write maybe in a sort of caustic way, from time to time, and it maybe shows up in the book.
Mm-hmm. It maybe shows up,
but most of it, I write the way I do and speak the way I do. And there's a joy and a humor to it. Like I thought the book was funny. Like everybody that likes the book is like, this was hilarious. I like these lines are great.
That's funny.
And so, I mean, I guess if I look at it like Rod is sort of in love with Trash World. Like he likes to take pictures with oysters and
what do you mean Trash World?
So the book, I talk about, really the entire, modern, a way of life, not just American, but predominantly American, this way of life that is hyper individualistic, consumeristic, where your existence, right, you're here on earth to consume product. Yeah. Right. That's why you're here to.
And that's your definition of kind of Trash World, like in consumer driven individualism.
Yeah. And it's I mean, it's a sort of nihilism and a sort of hedonism, although it's not. Yeah. Like if you talk to like an actual hedonist, like an ancient Greek hedonist, they would be like, these people are stupid.
Yeah, they're lost.
They're not real hedonists. Like we have fun. It's super lame. It's like your life is, living in a tiny little apartment, getting Uber Eats every day, and watching Netflix and porn. Right? That's the raison d'etre of your existence is to enjoy those things and can't wait till the next Marvel movie comes out, like that kind of thing. Right. And
so you're saying that Rod kind of participates in that, or at least on Twitter, the way he kind of,
in a more high class way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like instead of Uber Eats, McDonald's, he's having oyster
eats
and French food I can't pronounce. And so
that never fills you up.
Well. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well,
some of it is really good.
When Francis Fukushon cooks for me, I eat it.
Do not say that to the Fukushons.
Yeah, no. I love Francis Fukushon's food. I'm not knocking him at all.
Just saying, like, be careful. Like, I still want to be able to get invited to some of his dinners. So we
still want him cooking for the elder meeting and the annual
be careful.
So careful.
Retreat.
Be careful.
Yeah, but it's sort of that thing where it is where historic ways of life. Family, all the things that root life historically for all people everywhere. You have your family and your community and your nation, things like this. All that's stripped away and gone, and all you have left are just random individuals who their identity is in the product they consume.
Yeah, or on their Twitter handle or Instagram page, whatever. Yeah. Well, what do you in your book? You talk. You want to get? Okay.
Hold on. There's two of us here. We're gonna do the interview.
That's cool. You asked the first question.
I think I'm gonna run this now because you asked him first, anyways, and so no. So that's sort of like mainstream trash world. Has the church bought into trash world? Are Christians participating in trash world?
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of it, like you look at how consumer driven, mainstream evangelicalism is, right? That it is, you look at it like a big box evangelical church, for instance, and it isn't just them. So I don't want to only pick on them, but
it's like
you have a marketing plan.
Evangelical churches in Waseca.
Yeah. Well,
I'm just kidding.
No, you're gonna get me in trouble locally. But like you have a marketing plan. You have you're selling a product. You're selling a religious experience, and you want to have a nice band and a nice show, and the sermons need to be totally inoffensive, and like the less Bible you have in the sermon, is better. Like things like that.
Sure.
That's what drives so much of it. You see it all over the country, right? And because what it is like people are just picking a religious product. They're not stepping into a millennia old tradition of doctrine and theology and all the things that
rich
the church
history there. Yeah.
It's like, I like the band. Like that's the thing that drives a lot of evangelicalism. I mean,
is the product, not the
like the seeker sensitive movement was that and all of those things. And it's a mode of that same kind of society where you just pick whatever you want to be. You pick whatever things you like, and it's all consumer preference. It's all individualized.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
So kind of off
Gabe,
this,
you may ask a question.
Thank you, man.
Now.
You have this chapter in your book called "Economic Emasculation."
Yeah.
And then later on, you have a chapter in your book on economic masculinity.
Yeah.
So tie that into kind of this consumerism that you're talking about. First, what's your definition of economic emasculation?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it is our way of life in the last, especially the last 100 years, is radically different than most, just in the economic sphere, radically different than most of human history, or all of human history, really, where the household was the main thing, right? And the father would, and obviously, mothers would work and do, you'd have like America here in Idaho or in Minnesota, people came and settled the place and had farms,
worked the land,
and it wasn't like mom was sitting in there, doing Wordle on her iPhone all day and watching, Instagram stories. Like she was working hard too. Like the household was an economic engine, right? And that's the way it always was. I mean, in Europe with the peasantry, it was that way. I mean, all the way through human history. And then in the modern age, some of it is just the process of industrialization where now productivity is not tied to what a human being can pick up and move and human strength. And so now it's just your brain doing stuff. Like you can fill out, like a man and a woman can fill out a spreadsheet just as well as each other. And so you have the entrance of women into the marketplace in a different way.
Yeah.
And it disrupts the household. I mean, some of it is the kind of stuff like Chris Wiley, writes about in his books, that the household is no longer an institution anymore. It's now you have two, economic producers that maybe are tied together in a, easily dissolvable
through
contract.
a bank account or something.
Yeah, and that's it.
Yeah,
so there isn't really marriage. There isn't really a household. There isn't any of that. There isn't a father who is the provider for his household. It's dual incomes everywhere, and that works in like an economic sense. Like you'll produce a lot of stuff, but you won't have a mom rearing children. She'll outsource that to other people. She'll send the kids off to daycare and then to public school, and you'll make like the GDP will go up. It'll be good for the economy. So like I think back to there's that, and we sparred on Twitter about this, about the Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson debate that they had. You probably forgot.
Yeah, dude, I forget.
Yeah,
100%.
The truck. Yeah.
I don't remember.
You forgot because I got the better of him.
This is why I'm like,
he does that with all of us.
Yeah.
When we win the argument, he's like, I don't remember.
I don't remember. But this is why I'm friends with so many people, because I forgot what I said to them. I was like, I said that to you. I still mean it.
Yeah,
but I like you.
But Tucker's making this argument that like you need to have you need to have stability over generations in a society.
That's right. The AI truck driver tweet. I remember now. Okay.
And I'm like, well, I'm sympathetic to Tucker, even though like, you know, the libertarian impulse I have is that, look, the market is good and we should have free markets and things like this. And Shapiro is this like absolutist, like whatever is good for GDP, that's great. Well, there could be things that are bad for GDP or good for GDP that are bad sociologically, bad for the health of your society.
So how do you parse this? So like, I am, for one, I celebrate like modern technology.
Oh yeah.
So the fact that I don't have to use my body to produce, you know, my livelihood all day long. Is a massive post-millennial gift.
Absolutely.
I do chop my own firewood and I do heat my house with wood because I want to.
But the rounds got delivered to him. I mean, come on now.
That's true.
Today, if you're living in Moscow today, like it's a necessity here because like, the gas doesn't work.
Right now, our whole town's frozen right now.
So, but help parse this out because obviously, the household is the building block of society, and there has been a modernist, like full court press assault on the household, and I think modern technology has been weaponized, to assist with that, and then demand the breakdown of marriage and the breakdown of family. But that doesn't mean then, you know, we should just, you know, do horse-drawn buggies.
It isn't a license to Ludditism.
Yeah.
You know, it's more so...
The Ludditism? Is that what I heard?
The Luddite, you know, the people that...
No modern technology.
No machines. Right. It's more so like recognizing there's a responsibility that comes with the power, you know, the Spider-Man thing, right? Like you have this great power of technology that now you have human productivity that is... like if you went back 500 years and told them like the wealth that we can produce, like they would think you're crazy, right? And so there's this massive power that comes with technological advancement, but a lot of people look at it as a morally and socially neutral thing, where it's like, well, it's a good. So there aren't any like strings attached to it. There aren't any things we have to think through sociologically. Right. And there aren't any problems that could ensue from it. And so I'm more so saying we need to think about that stuff in the midst of recognizing the blessing of these things.
But it's the responsibility of like individual fathers, for example, to decide like, we'll use this technology, not that technology.
Well, even beyond that, I mean, there are some things like that where like there's all sorts of like not letting your kids have social media, things like that. You know, like, we're not going to use that technology because it's not going to be good for you. But so there's an individual responsibility as well. But I think you have problems of the commons, right? And this is where like some of the like libertarian theory, you know, bumps into realities that are not so comfortable. Where, you know, if you have a commons, right, what happens in you know, naturally. Like if you have a whole bunch of woods that nobody owns and it's a free for all for everyone, well, what happens is it gets clear cut and everyone takes all the wood and
nothing goes back or whatever.
And no one takes care of it. Right. Whereas if you have private property, it's maintained and owned and things like that. But and so technology is sort of like a problem of the commons where, right. I mean, it's similar to like in the Old Testament, the Sabbath law, right? I mean, you know, Moses had the guy stoned because he was collecting wood on the Sabbath. And the reason why, and you know, modern people look at that and they're horrified. Like they would execute someone over breaking the Sabbath. That's barbaric. Right. And it's like, well, no, you have to honor the Sabbath because if you let that guy get away with doing that, what's going to happen is everybody is going to start. Because if I don't do it, I mean, it's like having businesses closed on Sunday. You know, today. I mean, a common, you know, question within like the whole Christian nationalism thing is like, well, if you let this store be open on Sunday, then I have to be open too, right? And so you collectively solve that problem by saying, no, we're going to be closed on Sunday. So some of it, you might have to have someone solve a collective solution to the problem of the commons, where it's like, well, no, moms should stay home and take care of their children and not, you know, send them to daycare, not do this.
How does AI play into this collection of the commons?
I mean, I think it's just another technology that multiplies human labor. Right. I mean, a lot of people they think like, oh, it's going to be like Terminator and Judgment Day and things like that. I think no, it's something that is useful. Like I'm not like a lot of our guys are freaked out. They think, oh, it's a demon in the computer that's running things. It's like, no, I think it is. It's a technology that actually levels things a lot. Like I even think about in terms of like culture and cultural creativity and the barrier to access. Like even something like this show, right? 30 years ago, none of us could do stuff like this. No. Right, the only people that could do it are the people that have massive resources and cameras and studios.
The gatekeepers, largely.
Yeah. So now you can have a show like CrossPolitic and many others where the barrier to entry is much lower. And so I think about it in terms of like making feature films and things like that. Like you could make a Hollywood blockbuster movie in very very nearly in the future for like $50,000.
Well, and AI is getting crazy.
Yeah.
In the movie clip cutting world and what it can do.
Oh, the memes, the meme ability is it's fantastic.
Yeah. So this all comes back to memes for you.
Yes. Yes, it does. Yeah.
I was thinking as you're talking that with great power comes responsibility. Maybe the next book could be the Spider-Man option. I don't know. I'm just thinking. Maybe you should think about it.
I'll keep that on the short list.
That's funny.
So I think the thing about the Tucker Shapiro discussion that bugged me was I'm not a libertarian. But I don't think that the answer then is to give certain authority to
the government.
Because I believe that God has established other governments. There's church government and family government, among other institutions like schools and businesses and so on, that when they exercise their authority and power faithfully in obedience to God's word, there's a checks and balances that works itself out. The guy that goes in and clear cuts the common land is not going to get invites to next year's town party. He might also get some dirty looks at church, and if he's being really bad, maybe there's a church discipline going on. So not everything has to come down to fines and prison time and the sword. And I think that was the thing with Tucker. He was just like, this should be illegal. This should be illegal. And it was, and I think that's the thing that bothers me is that in our eagerness to recover a Christian public square, count me in, I'm all in. We don't want to just take the control room that the liberals have been building, the leftists and the progressive have been building for the last 2 centuries, and say, now we got it. Now we're going to tell you what to do.
Exactly.
Rather than saying, no, we've got to remodel this whole control center. Is there some overlap where God's still given authority and power? Yes, and we should use that cheerfully, gladly, and with justice. But there's a whole bunch of it that needs to get. Speaking of Boniface, there's a big chunk of it that's got to get torn out.
Just chop it all down.
And pieces of it maybe belong to families.
Oh no, I know.
And pieces of it, belong to other governments.
I think so. I think some of it. I can see Tucker saying that it gives me pause too. Like I don't know what I think about that necessarily, but it's part of it too. Though is I think about it. You have an entire society where the people that are more or less good and more or less on our side still have the perspective of Shapiro, where these things are an unqualified good. We can't question them. Technological progress is always good. And so if you have a society like that where everybody thinks that way, the Tucker, no, we'll just ban it, might be your only option. It's a lot of these things, a lot of these questions are picking between multiple bad options, right? I get the ideal situation where you have a very homogenous, high trust society where, right, if one guy does this thing and it's not good for your people together, well then he could be shunned and he'll face social repercussions and things like that. But that assumes that you have that, right? So if you don't have that and everybody thinks no, the GDP must go up no matter what, then you might have to exercise political authority to do it.
Is it? I guess even on that question, like it seems to me that even that notion of GDP must go up is like that only works in a tiny short-term thinking way. Like we're in the middle of driving off of our GDP off the cliff. Like we don't have, and it's directly tied to the destruction of the American family.
Yeah, absolutely.
We sent our wives to work. We didn't have any kids. If we had one, we aborted most of them. Mm-hmm. Then we sent the one we had off to daycare, and he's a single,
pothead
in his grandma's basement playing video games and watching porn now. Yeah. And we have this massive population hole.
Yeah.
And so if it makes the GDP, it's all you have to do is wait another a generation. And I mean, I know that's hard work for a lot of people to have that kind of patience and so on
through that. Yeah.
But it seems to me that it didn't actually grow the GDP. It gave you a GDP buzz.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. But it is very short term thinking. It's very much like John Maynard Keynes, the famous quote when people are objecting to his economic system, and in the long run we're all dead, right? So the future doesn't matter, right? And of course, I talk about this kind of mindset in the book when I use, this is probably what made Rod Dreher so upset. I use the internet phrase "fake and gay," and I explain that isn't just a slur. It isn't just a sophomore thing. It's that, right? The homosexual, his entire mode of being is there's no future. He's not going to have children.
Right.
He has to Pete Buttigieg buy some children from somebody.
Right.
If he wants them. And so there's no future. There's no productivity long term. It's living entirely for today. You're entirely high time preference. It's right now. Mm-hmm. And that's they want everyone to be of that mindset of consume for tomorrow we die.
Yeah. Right.
And so it is this short little fix where the GDP goes up and it's great.
Yeah.
But it doesn't last over generations,
right.
And you're consuming all the equity that has been built up over hundreds of years or millennia for this short-term fix. I mean, it's like someone betting the value of his house on a football game, right? You might win a lot of money. You're going to lose it though, right? And so that's more so what it's like, and so I think a lot of it is there is this mindset, and it gets masqueraded as sort of like a libertarian purism, where it's the market is sovereign and whatever the market wants, that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the market wants your wife not to take care of the kids and work because that's good for the economy. Right? There's more productivity. There's one more job, and so
I guess on that I know what you're saying, and I guess I still want to push back and say, but it's not really.
Oh, I agree.
It's good. Yeah. It's good for the orgasm.
Yeah, in the brief moment. Yeah.
But I think there's also a sense in which we, as Christians, we want to hold the dictionary. Yeah. It's not actually good for the market.
Yeah, exactly.
It's suicidal.
Yeah.
And I think you're absolutely right. It's a politics of sodomy.
Yeah.
And this is Rushdoony. He wrote a book actually called that.
Yeah.
And the politics of pornography.
Yeah.
And it's living in the moment, and it's suicidal.
Right.
It's destructive. But that's the thing is maybe gives you a momentary market orgasm.
Yeah.
But it's suicidal and destructive. It's not actually good for the market. What's good for the market is for men to get married, have a pile of kids, be faithful to their wives, build businesses and schools.
Yeah, but the people that are in charge, they're like, well, I'm going to be dead in 20 years, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
And so we'll live on the high for now, and my grandkids will have to worry about that.
Right. So let's add just a little context here. People are probably wondering why we're talking economics and family and AI and all this stuff. What was the point of writing the Boniface option?
I think the point of it is, I mean, even to talk current events, to take it back to that, I guess I can.
Whoa! This is CrossPolitic. We don't talk about current events.
But I think
the gospel doesn't apply.
You see the pro-life movement and how especially Pro-Life Inc. and how pathetic it is, and you see the results in Ohio Tuesday, and so much of the pro-life movement, so much of conservative evangelicalism that means well and is pursuing things. Pro-life agenda is good, right? But beneath that is an entire world that is completely decayed and rotten, that requires the sacrifice of millions of children to function,
right?
And so I look at I'm looking at that world, right? That's right behind abortion, and and seeing most evangelicals and most Christians are not aware of it at all. They just think we could keep trash world. If we just stop killing babies, then we could keep everything the way it is. And it's like, no, the rot goes so much deeper than that. And you're not going to be able to just have one simple legislative trick to end that. It's all of this. Like in the book, I basically say, and I think I originally wrote it before the Dobbs decision, where I'm like, if abortion was outlawed in America, like totally, like if Dobbs decision happens and then Congress passes a law to completely outlaw it, right? The American economy would collapse, right? It just would, because all sorts of women would leave the marketplace and have to raise children. Yeah. Right. And so, I mean, you see this with like the military, the woke military saying, no, we need to have abortion in the military because we need all
keep the women in there.
Yeah. And it's like they get it. Like the entire society has to, it needs
is now being built on this kind of facade.
Yeah. And so a lot of the book is trying to delve into just how bad things actually are so that you can confront these things and challenge them. And so, pastors can begin thinking about this and preaching about all this other stuff. Because you'll maybe hear, you don't as much anymore in a typical evangelical church, a sermon where he'll mention abortion, things like that, but they won't touch feminism. Right? They won't go anywhere near that because half the church would think he's a misogynist and hates women. And you cannot do that. And so that all of this stuff, it's just looking at the destruction of the family, and how much we idolize wealth in this way, not real wealth of intergenerational wealth that's being produced and a good solid sturdy life that will last for hundreds of years, but just this cheap selling off the seed corn kind of living that we've had, and you see it even like some of the stuff that drove Trump's and still drives Trump's popularity is you have this guy saying, hey, maybe it wasn't a good idea to move all of our factories to China. Like, yeah, it was good for, it's the same argument. Like, it was good for GDP in the short term, but even now it's like, well, World War III is maybe on the horizon and we couldn't fight it if we wanted to, because we can't manufacture the stuff that you would need to fight a war.
Yeah, we all felt that during like the post-COVID, all the supply chain craziness. We're like, I can get that to you in a year.
Yeah, garage doors coming in 6 months.
Yeah, we tried to order. Our family keeps growing. We needed to be the typical homeschool family with a 12-passenger van.
Yes,
we tried to order one. Brand new, because the price of used ones was almost as much as new ones because of the supply stuff. Yeah. And we go to the Ford dealer in town, and he's like, when we order it, we ordered it in like May. He's like, it should be around in Christmas. Oh wow. Man, that's terrible. And so like Christmas comes and we call him up. Hey, is that van in production yet? Are we going to get that thing? And he's like, yeah, maybe next Christmas. And then we're like,
wow.
What?
Wow.
Are you serious? And so, we had to buy a used one for like the price of a brand new one. And it's like, you think about that, like, why is that happening? Well, it's because there isn't actual manufacturing in the United States anymore. And with that, it's like the Tucker Shapiro thing, where those jobs were breadwinning jobs for families, right? Yeah. Those are jobs that provided for a family. You look back 40 or 50 years ago, right? Women didn't have to go work. Their husband could provide everything they needed from the job that he worked. They went because they wanted the extra money and things like that. But it wasn't a necessity. Now you look at many families throughout the country, like even like the price of a home today, you need to, I think like the median price, it was on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, like the amount of income you need in a household to be able to afford the median level home in America is like $116,000.
Wow. And
it's like, well, there's not very many men that make $116,000 on their own. Right. And so it requires a dual income just to own a home. And it's like, that is not a healthy system. That doesn't work. And so some of it, like the things that the economics that drive, the Trump thing and the populist economics and so forth, from like a libertarian perspective, you would be like, no, like it's more efficient to have the factory in China because you could pay them less and all this kind of stuff. But it's like, well, I don't know. I'd rather pay maybe $1 more for certain things, and know that someone in my country has a job that can feed his family.
So are you arguing in the book then that Boniface was infamous for cutting down the tree in the middle of the
There's the picture on the
town.
on the book. See, there it is.
Yeah.
In the middle of the
Right next
town,
to
they worship the tree. So he went in to tell everybody that to show everybody that this isn't a god. I'm going to cut down the tree.
Yeah.
So is that kind of what you're arguing in the book? Is where we need to kind of cut the roots, chop this economic trash, society tree down.
Yeah, cut it at the roots, and it's this idolization of mammon, not in the sense of like Toby's talking about that no, God blesses people that are faithful, that work hard and are productive, and like that's part of what God does, right? When you're faithful, is he blesses the labor of your hands. It's the idol, however, is trying to get wealth just to consume it right away, and it is this idolization where you care so much about money and wealth, and we collectively do, that we will sacrifice the future in order to get the wealth now. Like that's the mammon idolatry that we have.
Sure.
Not that it's wrong to work hard and want to make money, but rather
it's actually good to.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the right thing to do because you're supposed to provide for your family and think about and leave an inheritance to your grandchildren.
Exactly.
But you actually have to have long-term thinking.
Yeah. Even just to have kids, you have to think that way, right? And
so right after my question, why are you so mean? My next question is when did you become a Kinist?
You should read that ad real quick, and then he's got to answer the kinism question.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of home,
This is why Knox is not here.
it's where you build your legacy, where traditions are started, seeds are planted, meals are shared, and stories are told. Home is where you prepare to go out into the world. Finding the home that's perfect for your family is a big job. Story Real Estate is Moscow's top real estate team. They give people real estate advice all over the country. Family homes, investments, land, new construction, or commercial, they know real estate. If you've thought about a move to Moscow, Idaho, or anywhere in the country, maybe even Wasika, reach out to get connected with a Story Real Estate agent today. Wherever you're going, they can help guide you home. Visit storyrealestate.com. All right.
yeah.
There you go.
we go.
Okay. So when did you become a Kinist? I'm kidding.
Like Owen Strahan thinks, I am, and probably you are, and everyone in the room is. No.
Owen Strahan.
Yeah.
All right.
Toby was rapping just like he was.
He needs to go back to
was rapping
school.
just like he was.
Does Owen rap?
You haven't seen the video?
There's a video of him.
Maybe.
Gabe is much better.
All right. So unpack this.
Yeah, so there is. You see it like Stephen Wolf is accused of this all the time. Anyone that thinks out loud about race and ethnicity that isn't there's no race but the human race and colorblind society and all these things, but actually addressing there's different groups of people. They have different strengths and weaknesses. Different nations have this, things like that. And anytime you look at that and talk about it that way, it's like, oh, you must be a kid. You must think interracial marriage is a sin and things like that. And it's like, no, I don't believe that at all. It's more so, I think I've started to have an interest in these questions, around, when, especially 2020. And you're
like, which race is responsible for this?
Yeah, that's right. Well, the mostly peaceful, Summer of George happens. Starts in my state.
Yeah.
And you're seeing all these things, and you're seeing insane stuff that now the left wing people say about Israel. They're saying about whiteness. We need to eradicate whiteness, abolish whiteness. And I'm thinking well, they're talking about me. I don't like that. That's not good. And they're viewing these things like the CRT and woke. Even before that, you have the Gospel Coalition, celebration of Martin Luther King.
Oh yeah, the MLK
like
500
and 50. Yeah.
50. That's right. Yeah, 500. That was the real Reformation 500. Right. Yeah, MLK 50. That's all you got is 50.
Yeah.
We've shown the what's the Chandler clip?
Yeah, the Anglo 8.
Anglo 8.
Yeah. But I've even thought about this too. There are guys I know who very, very bright, very competent. Like they would apply for med school or law school, and they would not get in despite having great grades. And then someone who is not white, that's a worse student than them, would get into the school they wanted to go. And it's like, that doesn't make. I mean, it's the same Chandler thing. It's the Anglo 8 versus the
Yes, I mean, but so there's an example of how the church has led the way. I mean, I know we mutually reinforce our idiocy. But the whole affirmative action type stuff, and some of that's been overturned recently by the Supreme Court, at least in college,
the Harvard college admission stuff.
I mean, limited extent.
Who knows what'll happen exactly, because everybody's still busy.
They'll find a workaround.
Virtue signaling, but at the same time, we should have no problem with talking about the truth, talking about the way God made the world, talking about different nations, different races, all these things, and wherever that. So that's not a problem. But at the same time, like it seems like there's also is a rash of people. Maybe being mocked for whatever because of all the hatred of the white race or hatred of Christianity or whatever it is, or just being a male, because the patriarchy. There's a constantly a temptation among many to just finally say, screw it. You're right. I am.
I'll be racist now.
I am racist, and just sort of embraces the label that's been given to them.
You go to the dark side,
by these progressives, and I'm seeing that, and while I have some sympathy because I know like you've been beaten over the head with this all your life. I also know that this is one of the central things that Jesus addressed in the Gospels. I mean, we have all the same players that Jesus had. You have the zealots. We got zealots. Left and right zealots. Who would just say, all right, fine, I'm going to burn it down. And so, what's your approach to dealing with? I know that you are reaching out to many young men. I know you're a pastor. You're thinking about these things, but how are you thinking about this? They are, we've got leftist crazies. But their crazy is starting to incite a kind of right crazy.
Well, I think so, and that you have a natural reaction to, an overreaction to the leftism. And
somebody punches us, we want to punch them back.
Well, exactly, and so my approach, and this is similar to like the conversation I had with Doug and the guys yesterday with Cannon, is I see that, and I see examples of that where young men, especially because certain things, many things are repressed. You're not allowed to talk about them. Right? You're not allowed, like the big one is like crime statistics, right? You're not allowed to look at the racial disparity in crime statistics because, that's racist. And like young guys will discover this and like, whoa, I've been lied to about all these things. And then they will go, further and further off the
black pill or whatever. Yeah.
And so like my thing is, I want to be able to, like you said, openly discuss things, not like recognize that there's this massive taboo about any of these kind of conversations, but just be like, well, I don't care, and be able to be someone where I don't get scared off, or I'm not going, if someone said, like one of these young guys says to me, well, I think thus and such, or I was reading this online, like, what do you think about that? Like, they won't expect me to be like, you're a racist, you need to repent, this is bad. But rather be able to have a conversation and say, well, here's maybe where there's a point here, but here's where they're wrong. Be able to, pastorally talk through issues, because like you said, I think there is going to be a reaction. To the left, and it's going to be bad. If it's not Christian. Right.
Exactly. And that's part of what I'm concerned about is like, it's going to turn violent. If you join the revolutionary spirit, even on the hard right, that turns into violence.
It will.
But I'm like, I'm seeing people like accusing Doug of being, calling him boomer and this kind of thing, and you're like, Doug wrote. Southern slavery as it was.
I know.
When, you were in diapers.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Most of we weren't even born yet.
And he's been called racist and, slaver and all the rest of it. And,
for decades.
And homophobic and all the rest of it for decades.
Yeah.
And I like, and I'm, I know somebody who doesn't know, but it's just sort of like chill,
get
relax.
a sense of yourself.
You need to recognize that Doug was doing this, our community was doing this. We have conferences here. I don't know. You were probably here when some of those happened. I don't remember. There was we had protests because so Doug was defending slavery, all the rest of it.
Oh, he's a racist.
And it's like no, read the book.
Yeah,
read the argument. So we're as you say, like there's a sense in which we must not care what the left thinks.
Yeah.
But we do need to care what God thinks.
Exactly.
And we also need to care about the people who are listening to us. The left isn't listening to us. But you got a bunch of these people that are on, red pill / on the edge of being black pilled, listening to us.
Yeah. I think you're right. I mean, to speak on, like, I always tell people, because I'll see people like, oh, Doug is a boomer, he doesn't get it, and and I'm like, well, yeah, he is of that generation, and he's by far the best, by far. And so cut him some slack, right? Like, and even if it's like arguing with your dad, right? You're going to disagree with him on things. You're going to have a different generational perspective than he does. But that's fine. But it's the way it is.
But I guess my point though is like he would at least be one where you'd say like clearly he's not holding his views because he's trying to get points with the left.
He's afraid.
Or because he's afraid of the cancel culture of the right. Like,
exactly. Yeah,
he was he didn't care about what Russell Moore thought before anyone
knew that he was woke.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, that kind of thing, there was a reason why he's never been invited to any of the conferences.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like, he was canceled before there was a thing called cancel culture.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And so I think a lot of people should cut him slack, that are nipping at his heels from the right. Even though like you can disagree and like I disagree with him on things and it's fine, but I think
that's just honest disagreement. That's just like I read this text differently, or I read this situation differently. But that's just called being human, and that's being a man.
And it's gonna happen, know. And so But aside from that, I think like the younger guys are, they've grown up in this cultural milieu, which is cranked way up, where you're a white male, you are the very low of the low. And like you said, it's very easy to be filled with bitterness, resentment, and rage over these circumstances. And like the antidote to that is not, all right, now I'm just going to be angry online all the time. The antidote to that is work hard and do the very best that you can with what God has given you, and build a culture, build a society, build a people that will stand when all of this is cleared out. Right. That's what you need to be about. And so, I mean, you could talk about different things and think through them, but it often, I think it causes people to basically to cope with their circumstances, where they will they're like, oh, it's because of the left and how they hate white people, why my situation's so bad. When no, God has still given you a lot that you can work with, and so to direct that energy into productive things. Right. That's often what I try to tell guys. Right. And so I don't know, maybe I have a level of credibility with young right wing guys because I'm not going to instantly point the finger at them and freak out over something that the left would that they say. But it's ultimately, there's a pastoral goal to that, right? I want young men to think Christianly about all these things. Right. Yeah. Okay, this, you know what's going on here. So how does God want you to think about it? What does His Word say about these things?
No, that's really good. I just think what you're going to have to do is, I'll stop here. You're trying to make me shut up, aren't you?
I was doing that.
Look, yeah, I hear that. I guess I just want to say though, absolutely. And Jesus looked at the zealots of the first century as sheep without a shepherd. Yeah. And had a heart for them. Right. So we should have a heart for the red-pilled and even the black-pilled. Yeah. Want to see them shepherded well. Yeah. And at the same time, I mean, he is going to say things to offend them too. Yeah. When your Roman overlord commands you to go with him a mile, go with him 2. Go
2 miles.
You know who he was talking to? He was talking to the black-pilled Jews. He was talking to the people who were pissed at their progressive overlords. Yeah. And that wasn't Jesus saying, so be a pacifist. That wasn't Jesus saying, be apathetic.
No.
Welcome to my kingdom where we're losers.
Yeah.
That's not the kingdom of Jesus at all.
No.
But that shepherding, back to maybe the beginning of, why are you so mean? I guess at the same time, sometimes think there's an over coddling of the black-pilled.
Yeah.
Where it's like, don't punch right.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Well, we need another hour for that.
And I want to just, we do. But I just want to say, no, let's punch fair. And I think there's places where, when our team, our side, I mean, as far as the world is concerned, me and Larry Elder and Uganda and Trump,
you're all evil.
Torba, we're all the same people. We're all the same people,
of course.
And I'm cool with that. I'm totally cool with that. I'll stand there but then at the same time, I want to have the freedom to be like, hey, you shouldn't have said it like that. That was stupid.
Yeah, I think like the Charles Haywood no enemies on the right thing is it's a prudential strategy. Obviously, it's not a moral one where it's like, no, you can't have any moral problem with someone to your right. But a lot of it is you can, like what I try to do is I plant my flag in the ground where I am, and then you guys do the same thing and say, okay, here's where I'm at, but I'm not going to go out of my way to attack these guys, because they're constantly attacked from all sides, and the second you do that, the second you're like, no, this is where you're wrong and this is where things are bad, they instantly shut off. Right there, then it's like, oh, I'm not going to listen to this guy. He doesn't have anything. He's my enemy, and even though you're not, so it's a precarious position, right? It's not a good one to be in where you can't, you can't punch in both directions. In a positive world,
but Jesus did.
Well, he did and he didn't. I mean, he gives moral instruction to them about how to act, and so some of it is. It's like the moral instruction of Aaron Wrenn at the conference in Batavia a couple of years ago. He gave this list of things, and a lot of it, and he's I think very much no enemies to the right kind of guy, but he's still saying whatever you do, under no circumstances can you even use any kind of violent rhetoric or language or anything like that, and that's similar to what Jesus is saying to the Zealots, right? So he's giving. There's room to give this kind of instruction, this is bad, don't do it, in that way. But you're still communicating, and even Jesus was, I'm on your side, but this is a bad idea. This is wrong. Don't do it. Right. So I think it's within that paradigm, that framework that you're able to do it. It's not. It's because the punches are going to go left, right, to the enemies, but it's more it's more like disciplining your children. Right, in that sense.
Sure.
Right.
And this is where, you always have to have the pastoral wisdom of knowing sort of, is this a refugee or is this an apostle of the world? Yeah. Is this a refugee from, from the black-pilled world or is this an apostle?
Yeah. I'm going to give you last word because we got to wrap up.
Yeah. I think too, it's also a thing where, and this is stuff, I learned from you and from Doug about, pastoral ministry is, and just fatherhood, is you have to have money in the bank and able to, make a withdrawal.
Yeah. Check.
And so I think with a lot of the young guys, you need to have because these are big checks to write to say this is wrong, don't do it. And so you have to have a lot of money in the bank saying I'm on your side, I'm on your side, I'm on your side, to be able to do that stuff. And that's what Jesus did with these guys. This is right. I'm on your side. I'm not. I'm one of you, I care about you. And then he's able to say, when someone strikes you in the face, turn the other cheek, right? He's not, and they take, and initially people take that not as pacifism, but as the proper way to live. Same thing with the extra mile and so forth. So it's, I think I look at it within that kind of framework, right? A pastoral or a fatherly one, more so than I'm punching right and left.
There you go.
Where can people find your book?
On Amazon or bonifaceoption.com.
Bonifaceoption.com. Thank you so much for coming in the studio.
How can people follow you? You're on Twitter, you're on your website?
Gab, just at Boniface Option and YouTube, Contra Mundum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. Thanks.
You heard it here first. Andrew's a Kinist and an angry man. So I think that's what I walked away with.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna get clipped out of this.
yeah. Go ahead and clip it. If you're single, get married. If you're married, have kids. If you have kids, go baptize them. Until next week, love God. Next week. Love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbors as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. Knox still won't be back next week.
What?
Yeah.
This is CrossPolitic.
Hi, I'm Luke Ritchie. Wrong timeline. Okay, that's better. Time travel mechanics can get a little bit tricky. I'm Luke Ritchie, Chief Visionary Officer of Gravity Jack. In 2009, we founded Gravity Jack and essentially patented AR. What I'm about to tell you about is a vision that was 14 years in the making. War Tribe of Binyamin. This is a game that feels so real, it might be. It's a genre-defining game for AR and mobile and the Apple Vision Pro. We've integrated artificial intelligence not just into the characters in the game, but actually in the business model of War Tribe. So I love augmented reality games. They're one of my favorites. But the problem is it seems like they've added AR as an afterthought into the game. What if you sat down for 14 years and planned the entire thing around augmented reality? Games make a ton of money, and typically that money doesn't end up in the pocket of the players. We intend to change that. Lastly, and this is important, half the world has never and never will be targeted by big tech for an AI, natural language processing engine. We're definitely going to change that. War Tribe of Binyamin has gameplay like you've never seen before. We have portals opening everywhere, we have holographic communication, but what's really cool too is the world of 2133 is accurately geo-overlaid on the world of today. We're laser focused on ROI for our shareholders, which is you. One of the things we're doing that's super unique that's never been done before is taking 10% of in-game revenue monthly and giving it off as a dividend. The other co-founders and myself started Gravity Jack in 2009, but in 2007 we'd actually sold our company to a gaming company. We've hired the best of the best in terms of game development. Our director of development, product designer are all veterans in the gaming space. And not only that, we're going after a market that's gigantic. We're combining 4 huge major markets: artificial intelligence, augmented reality, translation, and gaming, all for a combined market value of $1.85 trillion.
Our incredible history has led us to be experts in mobile development, augmented reality, AI, gaming, and computer vision. It's been a wild ride here at Gravity Jack. A benefit to being so early on in augmented reality has led to a robust patent portfolio with active revenue and more to come. We've had the privilege of working with clients such as Oscar Mayer, Kraft, Lincoln, Samsung, T-Mobile. We've also worked on non-lethal Department of Defense contracts as well. We were a reference developer for Meta on the Oculus 2 directly, creating a game where other developers look to our source code for best practices. Early on in Gravity Jack's history, we did a game for Double Down Casino, and at the end of that contract, it was grossing $35 million a month. Our robust history has led us to be experts in augmented reality, AI, gaming, computer vision, and mobile development. Play to earn opportunities for the impoverished create an AI language model for unreached people groups, allowing us to have an eventual monopoly on speaking to half the planet. Our focus is shareholder dividends immediately after the game and into the future to create a game that's going to blow the world's minds. And we're pulling people out of poverty and into productivity. So what's the ask? Join the Binyamin.
Hi, I'm Luke Ritchie.